It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio show dedicated to educating, entertaining, and discussion of firearms, legislation, and your Second Amendment rights. Presented in part by the Illinois State Rifle Association, Illinois Gun Works, Safer USA, and Chuck's Gun Shop. Here's your host, firearm instructor, educator, and enthusiastic Second Amendment proponent, David Lombardo.
And we're back. Welcome to On Target Radio, Chicago's voice for the Second Amendment. I'm David Lombardo, and my co-host, Tim Dalan, sitting across the counter. How you doing, Tim?
I'm doing good.
This is you had a rough day today.
Yeah, I did.
You're not going to say
no,
a word.
I'm
not. Not a word's going to come out of his mouth.
I do have a cold, though, so I'll try not to hack on you.
That's really nice to know. Tim and I are here, assuming he doesn't die from the cold, every Sunday from 9 to 10 p.m. talking about shooting sports and personal protection and hunting, which is germane, and all things Second Amendment.
Yes, we are.
And you, the listener, will have the opportunity to call in and talk to our guest. And speaking of guests, Tim...
Yes, speaking of guests.
10th week in a row. We would like to invite Chicago's Mayor Rahm Emanuel to come on the show and discuss his views on gun control.
Chicago, did you call his office and tell him he needed to come on?
No,
I asked last week.
I honestly did not do that.
Well, I asked all our listeners. I said, call the mayor.
Yeah. Well, Mr. Mayor, if you're
Mayor.
Listening, and he probably does now. I'm sure he's enthralled.
He does, yeah.
We respect his position. We'd just like to chat with him about it.
Like us, we would like him to tell us why his thoughts and ideas are the way they are.
Be careful where you go, because there'll be ninjas outside your door.
Yes.
But tonight, we are going to talk about hunter education.
Yes, we are.
And you're not really a hunter, are you?
No.
You used to.
I hunt paper. Yes, I used to.
Yeah.
I have nothing the matter. I don't have any problem with hunting. As a matter of fact, I will come and eat all the venison chili you want to feed me.
We eat Jeffy's chili all the time.
Yes, I just, I don't do it myself.
Yes.
I just, sort of the reason I gave up on fishing, other than I'm really not very good at it, I don't like getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and going sitting in a cold, drizzly,
So tonight,
we'll
talk about hunter ed, and we will take your questions or comments at 312-642-5600. Almost did it, didn't I?
Yeah.
312-642-5600. Or go to Facebook, like our Facebook page On Target Radio, and you can ask a question there.
Yes.
And we do follow that.
And we are up on video, too.
That's correct. We're up on video. We have audio. We got everything we need. We might just quickly plug the fact that we are now, you can go to iTunes.
We are podcasting. Our podcasts are on iTunes, so you can go and search On Target Radio. You'll find our podcast in iTunes. You can also, I'm going to put the link on our Facebook page so you can go directly to our podcasting page also. Also, the link on our Facebook page, instead of having to go to YouTube before, if you wanted to listen to a pre-recorded show, something we had done in weeks past, now you can listen to our shows directly from our Facebook page.
And we have people listening as far away. Tell them, this is amazing.
I have a friend of mine, Mel Palmer, who listens.
You weren't supposed to say it was your friend. I mean, that's like saying your parents are listening.
Yeah. Well, my parents listen too.
I know.
But Mel listens in Kuwait. We have listeners through the stats. We can see we have listeners in Hawaii. We have somebody in Brazil. And we have two people that listen to our rebroadcasts in Okinawa, Japan.
There you go. So that's coming up. In segment 3, we'll have Don Moran, president of the ISRA, give us a little report. I began hunting in college. You hunted as a kid.
Yes.
I began hunting after I got out of Vietnam and came back to the U.S. I started hunting in college, and I hunt upland waterfowl. And eventually I got into elk and deer hunting, and I've gotten one elk in my life, and I don't even have a place to hunt deer in Illinois. Everybody hear that? I don't have a place to hunt deer.
So Dave is looking for a sponsor. If you would want to take Dave out and let him freeze and get drizzled on, he'd be very happy to go.
Thank you. Historically, Tim, fathers, hunted to gather food for the table and taught their children, and that's sort of gone by the wayside. So now what we have is hunter education, and this evening we have our guests in the studio are Mike Polk and Lyle Sleezer, both hunter education instructors, teaching hunter education at the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois. And Mike Polk, Mike began hunting when he was 13 years old. His grandfather took him hunting. Godfather, excuse me. Hey, Godfather, you want to go hunting, Mikey? It's okay. Was it in the city? Did you go like in the city?
It was
somewhere?
in the country.
Yeah,
this area of the country, a Godfather may have really been
That's what I'm
Godfather.
saying. Yeah, Mikey, come on, we're gonna go collect some money. I took him hunting for upland game, pheasant, and rabbit. He continues to hunt both small game and waterfowl. About 14 years ago, when at a family gathering, his nephew asked if he could go hunting. Already a member of the Aurora Sportsman's Club, Mike signed them both up for the Hunter Ed course at the club, and that led to his becoming a certified Hunter Ed instructor. Since becoming an instructor, Mike has been involved in the certification of more than 2,000 students. Mike is also an NRA certified rifle, pistol, and shotgun instructor and a range safety officer. Michael, welcome.
Thank you, David.
And Lyle, another old friend, a friend from a long time. You got to be careful how you say that. But anyway, the first time Lyle went hunting, he was 6 years old. He says he had a great time, but he wasn't allowed to have his own firearm, unlike Jeff's kids at 6.
Three
have like fully automatic.
And that's not an exaggeration.
No, it's not. That kid was shooting better at 5 or 6 than I do. But at 10, not Jeff's kid, but Lyle, at 10 he got his first BB gun and was told he was limited to sparrows and starlings. In his early teens, Lyle was finally allowed to have rimfire rifles and shotguns, which led to his great love of hunting. It was the Boy Scouts that gave him an appreciation of the outdoors and taught him outdoor skills. Scouting also taught him about conservation as he worked his way to becoming an Eagle Scout. I never got past first class, Lyle. It's code. It was the code.
That was for ethics violations, correct?
It's probably true. Eventually, he became, we're never going to get through this, Tim, if you don't stop interrupting. Eventually, he obtained his NRA instructor credentials and about 12 years ago became a Hunter Ed instructor. Lyle continues to teach hunter education and NRA basic classes at the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois. Welcome, Lyle.
Thank you.
I have a question. Mike.
Yes.
When did Hunter Ed begin? When did that formal program actually start?
Well, it started in Illinois in the late 70s, but the first hunter education program started in about 1949.
Really?
Yeah.
It wasn't mandatory?
No. It's in Illinois, it's mandatory if you were born after January 1st of 1980.
Okay.
And that requirement does differ with states. In Michigan, it's if you were born after 1960.
But it's an international program, right, Lyle?
Yes, there's an International Hunter Ed Association. They've been around for a good number of years. They're currently in 67 states and provinces. 7,000 volunteer instructors in the group.
That's pretty big.
Yes.
Explain this to me. If Illinois requires that you have a hunter education certificate if you're born after January 1st, 1980, could I take Hunter Ed in Indiana and qualify?
Yes.
Illinois? So you can take the course anywhere, and it's recognized everywhere.
Some states may have additional requirements. For example, in New York State, if you're going to hunt waterfowl, you have to pass the New York State Waterfowl Identification Test so that you understand what species you're actually hunting. But the basic hunter certificate is acceptable in all the 50 states and the provinces of Canada.
Now, Canada's an interesting thing because I duck hunt in Canada and I deer hunt in Canada. I don't think anyone has ever asked me for that.
Well, that's because you appear to be older than most of the states require, Dave.
When's our next break? I
think it's a little more than appearance.
Well, if he's going to serve him up, I'm going to hit him.
I really appreciate that, Mike. Okay, so it's also international. Like if you hunt in Africa, do you need to have it?
I don't know the requirements in Africa.
But it's
possible.
Other countries
yes.
teach the same. Is it the same program exactly?
Basically, yes.
Okay, so it's all certified on an international basis.
That's correct.
Okay.
All the instructors in Illinois are also members of the International Hunter Education Association.
Now, I've heard, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but I have heard that some countries, some African countries, and I don't know which one, but some African countries, they don't care how old you are. You have to have taken an official hunter education program. You have to have a card.
That's correct. In some of the Western states, the same thing. Everyone has to take the class.
I may be getting out of order here, but is there a website or somewhere you can go to find out what countries you need or you're required to have?
The International Hunter Education Association, which off the top of my head, even though I have the stuff in front of me, I can't find the website, but Lyle's got it.
Okay.
On the IHEA.com, and it'll pop up there, and you can start checking them there.
Okay, IHEA.com.
Correct.
You're listening to On Target Radio. This is AM 560 WIND. We're talking about hunter education this evening, and our guests are Mike Polk and Lyle Sleezer from the Aurora Sportsman's Club, hunter education instructors both. I think we'll have to wait to the next segment because we're gonna go to commercial here in a minute. But I want to talk about the safety issue. We were talking about this earlier before the show, during the show briefing, and I think there's a real question as to is it effective and how effective is it. But before we can get into that, we're going to have to take a little break. We're going to bring our sponsors in. They're going to make nice, and then we'll come back and we'll talk about it. So we'll be back in just a few minutes with more On Target Radio, AM 560 WIND.
And we do have a poll on Facebook. Anybody watching the video, if they think Dave's sweater is ugly or not.
Attention firearm owners or those considering exercising your Second Amendment rights. I want to tell you about Illinois Gun Works. From void services and new firearm purchases to gunsmith services and an indoor shooting range, Don and his staff will assist you without attitude or pressure. Need training? Illinois Gun Works' popular Illinois Responsible Firearm Owners class teaches you the regulations to legally defend yourself, own, and transport your firearm. There's a required class for a Chicago firearm permit and popular new shooter familiarization class, including one for women. Now, I took this class and urge you to reserve your spot fast for this fun class. Illinois Gun Works offers a wide selection of training and certification classes, from security work to those just considering ownership, even special group classes. Illinois Gun Works, Chicagoland's full-service firearm headquarters, is located on Grand Avenue, just a block west of Harlem in Elmwood Park. Call 708-452-0040 or visit IllinoisGunWorks.com. That's 708-452-0040.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560 WIND with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5600.
And we're back talking about hunter education, and we are going to get to some questions on the safety issue. But before we do that, the moment that everyone has been waiting for is Tim's tip of the week. And what they've been waiting for, I understand, is that Tim never does a tip of the week again.
Never again.
Never again.
Well, maybe we'll roll it back out for old time's sake.
Not from what the correspondence I get. So instead, starting this week, Tim is going to be doing Fighting Back.
Fighting Back. I think it'll bring in a broad range of things and topics.
Exactly. And it's sponsored by our very good friends at
the Illinois State Rifle Association.
There you go.
This is Fighting Back, sponsored by the Illinois State Rifle Association. Headline: Woman pulls gun on man who exposed himself at lake. A 35-year-old Longview, Washington woman who was walking along a lake with her 6-year-old son pulled a gun on a man who exposed his genitals to her around 8:10 p.m. Wednesday evening, according to police. This is just last week.
This is a family show.
Yes.
Yeah.
When the man approached her aggressively, sat down, and began performing a sex act, he suggested she should watch him. The woman explained, "I put the magazine in my gun, I cocked it, and I said, 'You need to leave or I'll shoot you.' Oh, expletive," the man declared before running away. The woman said she had never before brought her gun, a Ruger 380, with her to the lake, but she grabbed it on her way out the door Wednesday because it was foggy and dark. "I just had a feeling," she said. Now, nowhere in this article does it say anything about this woman being investigated or charged by the local police for any crime. I want to say that I fully agree with what this woman did. You have no idea what that man may have done, even if she just tried to get up and leave. Even when we get concealed carry in Illinois, in the north part of the state, could you imagine this woman not being charged with something? Downstate, she would be hailed as a hero, protecting her son and fighting back against a sick attacker. In Cook County/Chicago, she'd be in jail, at minimum for brandishing a gun towards a poor, mentally ill person. What do you think? Let us know. This has been Fighting Back, sponsored by the Illinois State Rifle Association.
Okay, that's serious. That's actually true, too. That's what makes it all of... I'm sorry. Yes. What would I do? I'd probably do the same thing.
Yeah, well, I can't blame her at all. So I think that she did exactly the right thing, and it may be hard for people here to... anybody listening in Chicago, I'm sure they are just like, oh, she should be in jail. We should fly out there tonight and demand that the police put her in prison.
Maybe we should go back to the old one. Okay, fine. That was good. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
And now we'll get back to hunter education after that very insightful and pithy Tim's
Pithy.
fighting
There's that
back.
word again.
Fighting back. Thank you very much. You're listening to On Target Radio, and this evening we are talking about hunter education, and our guests are Lyle Sleezer and Mike Polk, hunter education instructors. The premise behind hunter education is safety.
One of them.
What else?
What else? Well, ethics.
Okay.
Our
Fair chase.
Fair chase. I would note that on the exam, the single most asked about area of the program is hunter ethics.
Seriously?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Now, hunter ethics being like one shot, one kill, always find the game, that...
hunter edge and
Fair chase.
Fair chase. Make sure you don't trash other people's property when you're out hunting. Sort of the, leave only footsteps, take only memories kind of thing, although we take the game with us. How does one act in a community such as Chicago? I suggest to you that if you walk into a restaurant in Chicago in bloody camouflage clothes on a deer weekend, you're going to attract a certain amount of attention that's not going to be good. Whereas in Wisconsin, especially the North Woods area, you walk into a restaurant with slightly bloody clothes and you're going to get an entirely different reaction, usually with a request to share.
Well, I think the thing that is a little disconcerting is that we have to teach people what I would think is courtesy.
It is, but unfortunately, and as people say, common sense is no longer that common.
Unfortunately, I'm afraid that's true. We do have a comment on Facebook. We haven't gotten the call yet. The call board's open. Please, somebody call us. We want to know if we're getting out there. But Gretchen Fritz says...
I think this is a paid...
No, I swear to you it's not. She says, I like David Lombardo's sweater. This is obviously a woman with good taste. Lyle, there are stats that come out annually on hunting accidents, right?
That's correct.
For each state. What is Illinois? How does it stack up?
Well, I think it stacks up quite well. With the advent of adding the hunter ed, we're teaching these people the basics of safety along with that. Now, for last year, in 2011, there were 26 reportable accidents. 15 of those were tree stands. We've added tree stand safety over the last few years, trying to reduce that number even further.
There were actually a lot of people over the years killed out of tree stands, weren't there?
Yes. In fact, back in Kendall County, we had a gentleman about 15 years ago that fell and broke his neck and laid there for a day.
Oh.
Yes.
So what sorts of, from a safety perspective, what kinds of things do we teach? Because, correct me if I'm wrong, I think out at Aurora we do some shooting, don't we?
We have in the past. We don't at the moment.
Most hunter ed courses don't really have shooting. They're oftentimes in park districts and things like that.
That's correct.
So how do you do, what safety issues do you actually do?
We talk about basic firearm safety just as you would in a basic class at Safer. Muzzle in a safe direction, finger off the trigger until ready to shoot. Make sure you've got the right ammunition for your particular firearm. Make sure you know what your target is and what's beyond. Those basic issues that we all talk about, whether it be an Illinois hunter education class or an NRA basic class. But then we try to talk about the things that you have to be aware of when you're dealing with hunter education specifically. These days, most hunting, a lot of deer hunting especially, is done from a tree stand. And you're 15, 20, 25 feet up in the air. And if you forget where you are and take a step to the side, it's going to be an abrupt awakening. When I started to teach, we talked about the use of a safety strap. Now we no longer talk about that. We talk about the use of a fall arrest system, a full-body harness designed to support you and keep you from crashing into the ground. But there are still people who have to be reminded that you need to make sure that your tether that's holding you to the tree is shorter than the distance from your tree stand to the ground.
Basic physics.
Basic physics. It's not the fall that kills you. It's the sudden stop the end.
It's that last inch that does it every time. You're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560, WIND, and we're talking about hunter education tonight. Who is eligible to take hunter education? Lyle?
We'll take anybody, but keeping in mind that the material is written to the education level of a normal 10-year-old. And there is a written test that they have to pass. They need to have adequate knowledge of what they're trying to learn. They also have to show a certain amount of responsibility. If we feel that they're not mature enough to be out there as an instructor, we can say, no, you need to come back when you're a little older, a little more mature.
For a while, when I was doing Hunter Ed, they were requiring, I think it's younger kids, to show that they could safely operate a shotgun. Not actually shoot it, but they had to show that they knew how to load it, unload it, knew how to work a safety. Do they still do that?
It depends on the class situation. In the spring class and in the summer field day class, we try to go a little more hands-on. The fall class is usually overcrowded, basically because everybody's trying to cram that education class that they've just discovered that they need in September. At Aurora, we offer one of the latest classes available in mid-September, and we generally have far too many people in the classroom. You're familiar with the classroom we use in Waterman. We had 126 students.
Yes.
Last September.
Yes.
Wow, that packs them in.
Yeah.
Yes, it does.
There's no minimum age, technically.
Technically, there's no minimum age.
I know what was happening a number of years ago, and we've only got a few seconds here, but probably 7, 8, 9 years ago, they found out, the state of Illinois found out that fathers were getting their 5-year-old sons through Hunter Ed, getting a hunting card, and then going out and basically doubling their bag limit, and that got everybody up in a tizzy. Has that settled? Yes or no? We're going.
It has settled, and you will be in deep, deep trouble if they catch you using somebody else's tag.
It's actually a violation of state law.
Absolutely.
It is indeed. Okay, we're going to be back in just a few minutes with more On Target Radio, talking about hunter education. We're going to be back with Don Moran, who will give us an update on the Illinois State Rifle Association. So we'll be right back. Hang in there.
Chuck's Gun Shop proudly serves Riverdale and the surrounding communities. Conveniently located near the 142nd Street exit of the Bishop Ford Expressway, Chuck's Gun Shop is staffed by friendly, skilled professionals who will help guide a first-time shooter and assist you in obtaining a State of Illinois firearm owner's identification card. Chuck offers a full line of new handguns, rifles, shotguns, knives, and accessories. Chuck's also buys, sells, and trades used firearms and has a gunsmith on location that will provide expert care for your favorite firearm. Chuck's features a 6-lane indoor shooting range. Bring your own firearm or rent one from their wide assortment. If you live in Chicago, Chuck's Gun Shop offers the required Chicago firearms permit course. Chuck's Gun Shop is open Monday through Saturday and located at 14310 Indiana Avenue in Riverdale. Visit their website, chucksgunshop.net, or call 708-849-4455. That's 708-849-4455. Chuck's Gun Shop, serving Riverdale and surrounding communities.
Hi, I'm David Lombardo, host of On Target Radio. You're living proof that radio advertising reaches listeners. In the 2 years I've been advertising on AM 560 WIND, Safer USA grew from 300 students a year to over 1,200. By coupling our On Target Radio broadcast with our Facebook page, we found our audience is steadily growing, and in only 2 months it appears we've exceeded 5,000 listeners. Over 34% are in the age group 25 to 34, 26% are 35 to 44. We have listeners from Rockford to Western Michigan and Southern Wisconsin to St. Louis. Thanks to live streaming on the internet, we also have listeners as far away as Germany, Japan, and New Zealand. On Target Radio is offering low-cost sponsorship opportunities on Chicago's premier conservative talk radio station. Advertising on AM 560 WIND has worked for Safer USA. Let me show you how it can work for you. Call 815-744-5487. Join the On Target Radio team today at 815-744-5487.
We now return to On Target on AM 560 WIND. If you have a question or opinion, the studio line is 312-642-5600. Now, here's your host, firearm expert and educator, David Lombardo.
And segment 3 is brought to you by the Illinois State Rifle Association. For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has supported the rights and freedoms of Illinois citizens to keep and bear arms. For over 100 years, the ISRA has supported the use of firearms as a sport, for personal protection and as a fundamental aspect of national defense. For over 100 years, the Illinois State Rifle Association has been supporting you. Don't you think it's time you supported them? ISRA.org or 815-635-3198. That's 815-635-3198. The Illinois State Rifle Association, supporting you.
Yes, they are.
They are indeed. Good friends. Unfortunately, Don is unable to be on. He's tied up in a meeting. He thought he would be out and is not. So we'll catch up with him next week, and we'll get an update on the ISRA.
I'm sure we will.
And I think it'll be interesting in light of the election. I'm sure he'll have some interesting things to say.
Oh, yeah, and he's on the inside now.
Exactly. So we don't talk about that. Okay, anyway, we are talking about hunter education. In our studio, we have Mike Polk and Lyle Sleezer, hunter education instructors both from the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois. That's a shameless plug for the club that all of us belong to except Tim.
I belong to the ISRA range, I belong to the Newark Sportsman's Club, and I belong to the Oak Park Sportsman's Club in Plainfield. I belong to 3.
I'm going to charge each of them for ad time. Okay, so the question that I have at this point is what sort of subjects do you actually cover in Hunter Ed? Because my recollection is there are a plethora of subjects, and the question is whoever's teaching it kind of chooses, right?
Well, actually, there's an agenda, core curriculum that we try to cover. We use a variety of instructors simply because we find it keeps the students a little more interested. The topics range from firearm safety to hunter ethics to what do you do once it's dead? How do you utilize the resource? Boating safety, because waterfowlers sometimes end up in boats. There's a range of topics. Outdoor survival. Unfortunately, today, most people don't spend any time in the outdoors the way we understand the outdoors.
Our outdoorsy is a very 50s thing. Am I right?
Yeah.
I mean, really, it really is. It goes back to the 50s and prior. And you don't see a lot of that anymore.
There's a lot of kids who don't understand that we have this great big area of green belt around the city in the metropolitan area. While I was waiting to come in tonight here in the western suburbs of Chicago, I was listening to an owl hoot, and that's not something you get to hear in the city itself very often.
I had there's a really large deer, a buck that just kind of cuts through my yard to go to the river. I mean, he's big. You know, I live in village limits, and I have a funny feeling the local constabulary would not like me blasting away. But you're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560 WIND. Mark on Facebook asked this question, which is in perfect harmony with what we're talking about. He says, I'm looking into signing up for a hunter ed class. Does the class go over what proper protocol is for after the hunt, i.e., what to do with the harvest, for instance?
Absolutely. You can use it yourself. You can gift it to another individual. You can donate it to any one of several programs. But we do talk about that as one of the topics for discussion in the classroom.
Field dressing, what to do with any remains from the field dressing, what the landowner wants done.
That's a big issue in and of itself.
Yes, it is.
The relationship with the landowner.
Very, very big.
Isn't there sort of an unwritten rule that you offer the landowners part of whatever you harvest?
Well, you offer the landowner something. After all, you're using his property. It may be part of the harvest. It may be a turkey. It may be a ham. 15 years ago, a carton of cigarettes. Could be anything.
Bill in North Aurora. Bill, you have a question.
Yes, I was just curious if there's actually a certified online course.
There is an online course, but there is a live participation event that goes along with it through the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. Once you complete the online course, you get a form that allows you to participate in what we call a field day. But the field day is to give the instructors some face time with you so that we understand and we're confident of your abilities to actually go out and not hurt yourself in the woods and the fields of Illinois.
Okay, I understand that.
And it's also set up that when we're doing the field days, that here comes a 10-year-old or an 8-year-old or whatever, that he, by demonstrating, he's showing what he's learned, and that, yes, he did the test and not the bigger brother or someone else.
Right.
Okay, Bill,
So
thank you very much.
It'd probably be a good idea for a younger person actually to go to the online site to get a preview of what he needs to know, right?
Indeed, it would. Thank you very much, Bill. Appreciate the call. We're going to be right back after these messages from our sponsors. You're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560 WIND.
For 35 years, Pelcher's Shooter's Supply has served the Lansing area. Pelcher's offers new and used firearms sales, appraisals, and gunsmithing service. Pelcher's new spacious showroom has hundreds of major brand firearms and supplies, and PelcherGuns.com features daily specials. Pelcher's Shooter's Supply, on the corner of Ridge Road and Henry Street in downtown Lansing. Online at PelcherGuns.com or call 708-474-0662.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM 560 WIND with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5600.
And we're back. More On Target Radio. We're talking about hunter education. Mike Polk and Lyle Sleezer, hunter ed instructors from the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois, are with us. We have Edward on Facebook is asking, how long are the classes?
The minimum instruction period is 10 hours of live instruction at a full-time class. At Aurora, we generally teach that as 2 6-hour segments on consecutive Sundays. The online portion is, however, it takes them to complete the online portion, and then they're generally at the club for a field day for, 4 to 6 hours, Lyle?
Yeah, 6 to 8.
Yeah.
They're actually shooting on the field day thing?
No.
So you said they're 6 to 8, but they're in 2 6-hour sessions in consecutive Sundays, so they have to come to both Sunday sessions?
Right, but
Yes.
if on the field day, they just have to attend one field day.
And they do handle firearms
Yes.
at that point.
Okay. John asks, where are the areas in northern Illinois that one can legally hunt waterfowl, and how hard is it to get access to these areas? That's off our Facebook page.
No place in Cook County. Private land in Lake County that's not in a municipality. I don't think there's any place currently in DuPage County where you can hunt. The rest of it is any...
Will County.
Pardon?
Will County.
Will County you can hunt. Kane County you can hunt. McHenry County you can hunt. It's part of getting to know people who are still farming land and have access to their land for waterfowl purposes.
Or the cooling, all the cooling lakes for the nuke plant.
Like Heideke and those?
Heideke, LaSalle, and what's the other one? Braidwood.
Yeah, you need to double-check the sites because they'll have site-specific rules governing who, how, where, and how, and everything else that you're going to need to know.
You know, seriously, not joking. It's a shame about Cook County because Cook County has tons of forest and ponds and water and streams. I mean, if you think about it, in the state of Illinois, Cook County has a huge amount of natural habitat, and you can't use it.
You can't use it for hunting.
Right.
And try as we might, that's not going to change.
As you drive by and see all the deer and the herds of deer.
I know.
Heaven forbid if you touch them.
I know. It really is a travesty. And the worst part about it is they get overpopulation of deer. There are coyotes now near downtown Chicago.
There are coyotes in downtown Chicago.
Well, there you go.
Yes.
Probably stopping at Starbucks, slurping up a latte.
There was one in a 7-Eleven in the Loop.
Was there, seriously?
Yes.
Don't shoot
Wasn't there a picture in the paper of it sitting in the cooler?
Yes,
like the milk cooler?
It crawled into a cooler.
Crawled into the cooler.
If you want to get rid of them, give them a triple latte express or something. Mike asks on Facebook, I have a 9mm carbine and was wondering if it's legal to hunt coyote with handgun ammunition. I've been using .223.
It is legal to take coyote in the state of Illinois with any firearm except during the regular firearm deer seasons. During the regular firearm deer seasons, you can only take coyote if you have an unfilled deer tag. I suggest that what you need to do is get the Illinois Digest, which is available, of hunting regulations, which is available anywhere hunting licenses are sold or at the State of Illinois building. It has all the regulations about what you can hunt and when, and what you can use to hunt it with.
Now, you were saying that you could use a 9mm carbine, but you cannot use a 9mm handgun.
That's correct. It's not legal to hunt in Illinois with a semi-automatic handgun.
Right.
You're listening to On Target Radio, AM 560 WIND. We're talking about hunter education this evening. Mike Polk and Lyle Sleezer, hunter ed instructors out of the Aurora Sportsman's Club, are our guests. How much does hunter ed cost?
Hunter ed does not cost the participant anything. It is a free course offered under the guise of the state of Illinois. However, every hunter and every person who purchases outdoor equipment and supplies pays for that class. Under the Wildlife Recovery Act 1937, there's a federal excise tax that's collected by the manufacturers and distributed back to the states by the federal government that pays for these programs.
And in point of fact, it's actually illegal to charge.
Yes.
That's correct.
So they're not taking any of that money for other programs or anything, pay for bodyguards for the Exmare Daily or anything like that?
There was a former governor who tried to sweep those funds one time.
One time.
Right.
Is he making license plates now?
I believe that is the case.
He gave up on dishwashing?
Yeah.
It's a true history of our state. What can you say?
I might add, on our classes, we have the conservation police officer come in and go over the basic regulations to keep them out of trouble. And every state is different.
We only have about a minute and a half left, and this is a question way bigger than a minute and a half. But there is a dramatic difference between state law, like vehicle law, and conservation police law. Can you sum it up in like 30 seconds? I mean, it's a huge difference.
The conservation police officers are fully fledged law enforcement officers in the state of Illinois. They have all the powers that any state trooper has. They also have the power to enter any of the lands or waters of the state of Illinois to make sure that the regulations are being enforced. All of the wildlife in the state of Illinois belongs to the state of Illinois. It does not belong to the landowner. And the state has the right, under the wildlife code, to enter the property to make sure the code's being complied with.
The penalties, if, for instance, and this is fishing, it's hunting, it's anything, the penalties are such that they take all the, what do they call it, fruit of the...
You can lose your gun, you can lose your car,
your boat.
Right. That can all be seized and impounded.
It's like a drug raid.
Pretty much.
That'll keep you going straight and narrow. We are going to be back after these messages. We're going to talk a little bit about where you can get more information, and then that'll kind of be wrapping up the show for us. So, Tim?
And believe it or not, we have another pro vote for Dave's sweater on Facebook.
Someone else with good taste. We're going to be back after these messages and talk more about my sweater. I'm sorry. Hi, I'm David Lombardo, host of On Target Radio. You're living proof that radio advertising reaches listeners. In the 2 years I've been advertising on AM 560 WIND, Safer USA grew from 300 students a year to over 1,200. By coupling our On Target Radio broadcast with our Facebook page, we found our audience is steadily growing, and in only 2 months it appears we've exceeded 5,000 listeners. Over 34% are in the age group 25 to 34, 26% are 35 to 44. We have listeners from Rockford to Western Michigan and Southern Wisconsin to St. Louis. Thanks to live streaming on the internet, we also have listeners as far away as Germany, Japan, and New Zealand. On Target Radio is offering low-cost sponsorship opportunities on Chicago's premier conservative talk radio station. Advertising on AM 560 WIND has worked for Safer USA. Let me show you how it can work for you. Call 815-744-5487. Join the On Target Radio team today at 815-744-5487. 5487.
You're listening to On Target on AM 560 WIND with David Lombardo. Here's David with more interesting conversation on firearms, safety, your Second Amendment rights, and much more. To participate, call the studio at 312-642-5600.
And we're back with more On Target Radio. We're talking about hunter education this evening with our guests Mike Polk and Lyle Sleezer, hunter ed instructors both. I just have to comment, Mikey, I just have to comment that a lovely woman whose name happens to be Lisa Polk on Facebook says, you ready for this, Michael?
Mm-hmm.
I like David's sweater also.
What can I say? She has marvelous taste.
Absolutely. And see, I have to meet the woman. I absolutely have to meet her. She has good taste. I don't know. Where can people get more information? I get calls frequently from people saying, I got to take a hunter ed course. First of all, if it's September, October, November, and you're saying I have to take a hunter ed course, we're talking about you're going to go hunting next year.
Actually, there's one class coming up in Byron, Illinois in December. A friend of mine who's employed in Winnebago County as a court bailiff teaches in Byron, and he's got a class coming up in December. So if you need one, it's the Byron Forest Preserve District, and you can get the information there. Also, the Illinois Department of Natural Resources website and aurorasc.org will have our schedule for next year. We will be starting classes again in March.
This time of year is a bad time to be looking for a class.
Hunter education instructors are hunters. This is hunting season.
Duh.
We like to be in the woods, too.
So we do teach them year-round, though?
We teach in spring, we teach in the summer, and we teach in the fall.
Okay, so people really should be looking like spring or summer to be doing it.
The March classes traditionally are least attended.
Yeah. I bet you in the past probably 10 days, I think I've gotten half a dozen phone calls. Do you teach hunter ed? I go, no, I run a shooting school. We do it for money. But I tell them where to go. If you go to the State of Illinois website, they'll actually come up with a map of the State of Illinois broken down by county, right?
That's correct.
And from there, you can punch whatever county you want, and they'll tell you.
That's correct. Although we have people who drive fair distances to get into the class.
Well, and particularly now, this time of year, you may have to drive to, like, northern Minnesota. To
Byron.
To Byron. There you go. Exactly. Yeah.
And they're grateful to get in at that point.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's certainly short-sighted to wait this late to get into a class.
One of the things we teach in hunter education is make your plan.
Make a plan. Yeah,
but
it.
With the class in the spring, it's a much smaller class. You can do so much more with them versus 126 people.
Sure.
It's I recommend going to the spring class or the field day in the summer.
Well, it's planning.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing you want to do it. And I hear this, I hear it all the time. Oh, I want to bring my nephew hunting tomorrow. Where can I get a class today? Yeah, right. Good luck. Lyle, Mike, thank you very much for being on the show. We certainly appreciate it. And we thank the Aurora Sportsman's Club in Waterman, Illinois, who happens to be looking for members at this very moment, for letting you out of your cages and allowing you to come here. We would like to also thank Robin Zeeland, who is our call screener. Georgie is on the board. We would like to thank our sponsors, Illinois Gun Works, Chuck's Gun Shop, Pelcher's Shooter Supply, Illinois State Rifle Association, our website developer 31 Moons, and, of course, Safer USA. Next week, we're going to talk about upland hunting. We have Nancy Donaldson, a longtime upland hunter. We have Mike Jacobson, who owns Hilltop Meadows Hunt Club, a very fine, high-class quality hunt club, and Brian Camper, who is a hunting dog trainer and a guide. So they will be on next week. Until then, be sure to friend us on Facebook, On Target Radio. From Tim and I, thanks for listening, and we hope you'll be back next Sunday at 9 p.m. for more On Target Radio. And, Tim, you got any last parting words?
Yeah, everybody remember to call the mayor. We want the mayor to call us next week.
We do. We want the mayor to call us next
And I
week.
wanted to say hi to my good friend Andy and Joliet.
Hi to Andy and Joliet. Has anybody else got a last pithy thought before we split?
Hunt safe.
That's it.
Hunt safe.
Bye
Good
now.
night.
See you next week.